All right, good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to another biology tutorial. I believe you've been having a wonderful time going through materials and the previous lessons. So today we'll be looking at internal structures of plants, right? We'll cover several topics today, but let's start with the internal structures of plants. Like I told us before, this is a website we can use to equip ourselves for WASSCE exams, JAMB exams, and even NECO exams. All right. Even it is also useful for those who are in the university. If you are in the university or year one courses that has to do with biology, this is a beautiful website that can assist you to get ahead and pass your exams. All right. So let's proceed. Structures of flowering plants. Structures of flowering plants. All right. When we started the biology class, I gave us the 5 kingdom classifications, where we listed out all the 5 kingdoms that we have, ranging from protista, fungi, plants, animals, and all of that. So today we will be looking at the plant kingdom. We'll be looking at the plant kingdom. We'll be looking at kingdom Plantae, or what we know as the plant kingdom. All right. So under the plant kingdom, in the plant kingdom, we have the flowering plants and the non-flowering plants. The flowering plants and the non-flowering plants. All right. So let me use annotation. So we have the flowering plants and the non-flowering plants. The plant kingdom is divided into 5. All right. Yes, into 5. We have what we call the Talophyta. The Talophyta. After the kingdom, we have the phylum. After kingdom, we have phylum. In plants, instead of kingdom, we call it division. Instead of phylum, we call it division. Sorry. In plant kingdom, instead of calling it phylum, we call it division. So under plants, we have what we call the Talophytas. They are non-vascular plants and they don't have roots. So in Greek, talos means no roots, no stem, and no leaves. It simply means that this particular division of plants have no roots, they have no stem, and they have no well differentiated leaves. All right. And this is simply because they lack what we call vascular system. You can also call them non-vascular plants. They are non-vascular, all right, because they don't have specialized organs that carry out the internal functions of plants. All right. And example of talophytes are algae. Example is algae. All right. If you have maybe seen a gutter, if you have looked inside a gutter, you see green things that look slimy or that looks like mucus. Those things are spirogyrus. If you've ever seen if you have ever looked at maybe a body of water that is stagnant or a gutter where water flows, especially dirty waters, you will see something that looks very greenish. It is very greenish in color and looks as if it is slimy. It looks as if it is slimy, very slippery. So All those things, they are called algae or spirogyra. That's what they are called. All right. Then another division of plants are the bryophytes. Bryophytes or bryophyta or bryophyta. These are non-vascular also. They lack leaves. They lack roots, sorry. There is absence of roots. Now, a typical example of these are mosses. Mosses, or what we call liver moths, liverworts. Yeah, mosses, worts, and liverworts. Now, a typical example of this is if you look at an abandoned block. If you go to some construction sites where blocks are being abandoned, an uncompleted building, for instance, you see green things that are growing on those blocks that looks as if, how do I explain it now? That looks as if they are, let me see if I can see an example on Google. Let me see. An example of what I am talking about on Google. Okay. So let's continue. I guess I can't. Okay. So let's go on. Then the third one is the pteridophyta. Pteridophyta. This one, they also are non-vascular, all right? They are non-vascular and they lack roots also, or specialized structures. So example of this is ferns. So all of these things, all of these three divisions that I've mentioned right now are what we call non-flowering plants. All right, they are called non-flowering plants. Okay, so the kingdom Plantae, is divided into two, and we have the flowering and non-flowering. Okay, so these three things that I have mentioned here, the talophytes, the bryophytes, and the pteridophytes. The talophytes, bryophytes, and the pteridophytes, they are examples of non-flowering. All right. Why in the flowering, we have, under flowering, we have what we call, under flowering, we have the angiosperms and the gymnosperms. So these are two categories of flowering plants. All these talophytes, bryophytes, and pteridophytes are examples of non-flowering, whereas the angiosperms and gymnosperms are examples of flowering. All right, but most times textbooks refers to only angiosperms as flowering plants. They refer to angiosperms as flowering plants. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on right now. So from our discussion so far, you'd believe with me that what we'll be looking at today is what we'll be looking at today is the flowering plants. Okay, that's what we'll be looking at today. So the flowering plants are simply plants that bear flower. Simply put, they are divided into let me delete this. All right, so the flowering plants are called angiosperms. Now they have a root, a shoot system. They have both root and shoot system. Now this is it. Under the root, we have the primary root and secondary root. Then the shoot system consists of the branches, the stem, the leaf. All right, these are called the shoot system. Shoot. There's the shoot system, there's the root system. That's the two parts of the plant, a flowering plant. There is a root system, there is a shoot system. Okay, let's go on. Let's look at the root system. All right, now the root is those underground structures that enables the plant to stay firm. You know, it gives support to the plant. No, I believe every one of us, we know what a root is. We have an understanding of what root is. So they support the plant by providing anchor. They help in the transport of materials. They help to store food, and they can also be helpful in reproduction. So let's move on. We have three types of roots. We have the taproot, we have the fibrous root, and we have the adventitious root system. So these are the three types of root we have. The taproots are majorly found in dicots. Fibrous roots are majorly found in monocots. Adventitious roots are those kind of roots, you know, onion, for instance, have adventitious roots. Onion, you know, there are those roots that grow in other parts other than a well-known root. We'll get to that later. Okay, now taproots. They have a central root system upon which small lateral roots called root hairs are attached. Okay, so let me show you an example so that you understand what we are talking about. Taproot pictures, so that you have an understanding of what we are talking about. So this is it. This is a typical example, all right? Okay. Now, this is a typical example. This is a taproot, all right? So what did they say here? They said it is made up of small lateral roots called root hairs. So in the taproot, just look at, you see small extensions. Those are what we call the root hairs. They are what we call the root hairs. We refer to them as the root hairs. All right, let's continue. A taproot system consists of one thick cylindrical main root known as the primary root. All right, you know, in the previous picture we saw, we noted that there is what we call the primary root and the secondary root. Okay, the primary root is the major root, while the secondary roots are the extensions, things that comes out of the primary root. So let's look at the Google picture again. Now, this, just take a look at this. This big one is what we know as the primary root, while these extensions are what we regard as this one is what we know as the primary root. These extensions are regarded as the secondary root. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so the taproot is generally deep rooted and difficult to uproot. they are observed in dicots. So you remember what I said? I said taproots are found in dicotyledons, while fibrous roots are found in monocotyledons. Okay, example: carrot, dandelion, beetroot, China rose, parsley, tulip, coriander, region, mustard. So examples: just think of any dicot, any dicotyledon you know. Think of any dicotyledon you know. They all have taproots. Think of any dicot you know. They all have taproots. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go to fibrous roots. Okay, they are called fibrous because they are mostly bushy. That's why they are called fibrous. They are mostly bushy. They are mostly bushy, and they are found in monocots. Okay, examples of monocot that you see it in major cereals, or you can see it in maize, you can see it in rice, banana, coconut. So they have fibrous roots, rice, maize. They are all examples of monocots. Now, difference between fibrous roots and taproots. Now, number one, the taproots are longer, fibrous are shorter, capable of withstanding drought. This one, they cannot endure drought. Why? Because they are. Another thing you need to know is fibrous roots are seasonal. They are seasonals. They are those plants that grow within a special period of time and then they die off. You know, maize. Maize has its season, so it comes, we enjoy it for that season and it goes. So rice, the same thing. There are seasons you plant these things. Without outside that season, they cannot survive. So that's what they are saying here. Taproots, because they are dicots, can withstand drought. Drought is absence of rain or water for a very long time. So if, for instance, there is lack of water or absence of water or rainfall over a period of time, taproots can survive. Why? Because they have a system that allows them to store water or minerals or nutrients to sustain them during the period where the drought is very serious. But fibrous roots, they don't have those systems that can enable them store water or minerals or nutrients. So when there is drought, lack of water or rainfall over a given period of time, you see plants with fibrous root die off. They wither away. Why? Because they don't have the capacity to withstand drought. Now, in the taproot system, the primary roots differentiate into secondary and tertiary roots. So I've already talked about the primary root and I've mentioned the secondary root. All right. So in the primary root is the major one. Then the branches are the secondary root. Now, in the branches, there is also another extensions that we can regard as the root hairs. So all of these things make up the secondary and the tertiary. All right. So all fibrous systems arise from the stem. So there is not a major root where extensions occur. So fibrous, because of their nature, they all extend from one place at the same time. So no differentiation is observed. So taproots are majorly underground. They can't grow anywhere outside the ground. They cannot. They cannot. They cannot. Take mango tree for an instance, orange, all of those trees, they cannot. Their roots cannot grow anywhere other than inside the ground, underground. So, but some examples of fibrous roots can grow outside the ground. They can grow, some of them can grow on the ground, some can grow aerially, that's above the ground. Now, like I've mentioned, taproots are observed in dicotyledons. Fibrous roots are observed in monocotyledons. I've mentioned some of these things here. So another thing you need to take note of is that they are thicker than fibrous roots. Okay. So let's move on. So we have another thing we know as the adventitious root. So like I told you, we have what we know. There are three types of root system: the taproot, the fibrous root, and the adventitious roots. Okay. Now, adventitious are those roots that arise from parts of the plant other than the radicle. Now, what do we regard as the plant radicle? Let me show you. Let me show you. You know, when you put a seed in the ground, the seed will begin to germinate. That seed is what we regard as the embryo, right? The embryo. So the roots will begin to form. So any root that shoots out from the embryo can fall into the taproot or the fibrous root. So, but adventitious roots are roots that occur from other parts other than that radicle. So these roots can arise from the injured roots, nodes of the stem, internode branches, or any other issue, any other tissue. Okay, all right. So let's take note of that. Taproots, like we say, occur in dicots. Adventitious, monocots. They grow deep into the soil. They do not grow deep into the soil. That's adventitious. Taproots have primary roots that persist throughout the life of a plant. These adventitious roots develop from any part of the body except the radicle or its derivative. They can persist throughout the life of a plant. The adventitious roots are short-lived. Okay. I want us to take note of this. You can, if I am too fast, you can slow down and look at these lessons again. Okay. Besides, this website is always available for us. Awesome. 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 So root structure, the structures of the root. The structures of the root. So we have what we call the root cap, calyptra. Just take note of these things. Calyptra. This is a cap-like protective structure of the growing root tip. It secretes mucilage that acts as lubricant for the root to make its way through the soil. Root cap. Just like you wear your cap and it protects you from the heat of the sun. The root cap provides a form of lubrication for the plant roots to make its way through the soil. So the mucilage secreted by the plant roots or calyptra, the plant cap, root cap, sorry, or the calyptra can also help to absorb nutrients and water. Now, the more the root develops, the root cap degrades and renews constantly. Now, growing point, the next thing we'll look at is growing point or meristematic zone. Growing point, that's the point where the roots grow from. I can call it the meristematic zone. The zone lies a few millimeters behind the root cap. The root meristem adds cells to the root cap and basal region of the root. The outermost layer is known as the dermatogen. Now, growing parts, the growing point, or what we know as the meristematic zones. We have the dermatogen, the outer part, the peribrim, the inner, the central, which is known as the perum. So, in the plant, there are different zones. There are different zones, and they all have their structures and functions in the plant. We talked about the root cap that secretes mucilage and acts as lubrication as the plant makes its way through the soil. We looked at the growing point, or what we'll regard as the meristematic zones. First, we have the growing point. The growing point, meristematic zone. And we say that there are three. We have the dermatogen, outer. We have the peribrim. We have the perum. So the last one, the perum. The perum. So the next zone is what we regard as, we've looked at the growth zone. The next one is the elongation zone. Growth zone, that's where the growth is initiated from. Then the elongation zone is where the cell elongation occurs. Cell elongation, or what we call growth, where they begin to elongate, grow taller. They are found below or behind the growth zone. Remember that the growth zone or meristematic zone are found just behind the root cap. After the root cap, you have the meristematic zone. After the meristematic zone, you have the elongation zone. After the elongation zone, we have the root hair zone, or differentiation zone. Okay, hope you are following. And then after the differentiation zone, we have the maturation zone. Maturation. So these are different zones or structures in the root of a plant. So let's pay attention. There are about 5. We have the root cap or calyptra. We have the growth zone. We have the elongation zone. We have the differentiation zone, and we have the maturation zone. All right. Root cap or calyptra that enables the plant to make its way through the soil. Growth zone that is found behind the calyptra or meristematic zone is found behind the calyptra, and this is the point where the growth starts from. The growth of the root starts from, or the shooting of the roots starts from. Okay, once it starts from there, we also say that there are 3 areas. We have the dermatogen, the peribrum, and the perum. Dermatogen, the outer, perum, the inner of the dermatogen, and then the central region, perum. All right, so let's move forward. So that's that for the root system. Any questions so far? Any question? Okay. So let's look at the shoot system. The shoot system. The shoot. Now, when we started, I told us that in a plant, it is divided into 2 major parts. We have the root system and we have the shoot system. Now, all we have done so far is talking about the root system. We've mentioned the 3 types of roots: the tap root, the fibrous root, and the adventitious. And we've also explained each and every one of them with their examples. And we also mentioned the functions of the root and the different regions or sites or zones in the plant root. So let's move forward to the shoot system. Now, in the shoot, we'll find the stem, we'll find the branches, we'll find the leaves, we'll find the flowers, we'll find the fruits, and most importantly, inside the fruits, we find the seeds. Then there's what we call the petioles and the buds. So let's just take note of these things because we'll be explaining them as we move forward. The root system consists of the stem, most importantly, the stem. The stem is where these extensions comes. From the stem, we have the branch. From the branch, we have the petiole. From the petiole, the buds. Then the leaves shoot out. In the leaves, from the roots, the flowers forms. Then from the flowers, the fruits, and then the seeds inside the flower. So let's take note of these structures of the shoot system. So having mentioned that, are there functions? Does the shoot system have any function? Of course, yes. So looking at the leaves of plants, you would agree with me that that is the site of gaseous exchange. You know, the leaves, the stomata of the leaves is the point of gaseous exchange. All right. And when we talked about the structures of cells, the last time that we looked at the different tissues, we mentioned the phloem and we mentioned the xylem. All right. So, which inevitably means that in the stem also, we have the transport systems. The transport systems in plants. are found in the shoot system. So the mineral flows from the roots, it goes through the stem to the leaves. So which means that the stem supports transport. It provides support and transportation, gaseous exchange, most importantly, through the leaves, the stomata of the leaves. And then sexual reproduction. Of course, that happens in the flower. The flower is the reproductive organ of the plant. And then photosynthesis. No need to explain that. I believe we have an understanding of what that means. So let's look at the stem. Let's look at the stem. The stem is a part of the shoot system. It is not the shoot system alone, it is part of it. It is part of the shoot system. On its own, it does not make up the shoot system, but it is part of it. Now, for plants like potato or some of them, the stem grows on the ground. Plants like cassava, you plant the stem on the ground and the stem becomes the organ of reproduction. That's for cassava. Now, in the stem, it is divided into what we know as the nodes and the internodes. Let me use a picture to explain this to us. Let me use a picture to explain. Good. All right. So look at this now. This is a typical stem. This is the typical stem. All right. In the stem, we have the node. We have the node and we have the internode. The node is that part where the branches connect. It's called the node. Then the internode is the extension of the branches. I don't know if you're following. Let's look at another picture. Let's look at another picture. Good. Good. The nodes are those connecting parts. No, for branches, that part where the branches connect to the stem is known as the node, or the plant, the part where the leaves connect to the branch is called the node, whereas the internodes are the extensions of the branch. All right, let's look at another one. Good. So as you can see from here, look at that connecting parts. That's where the nodes are. Then look at this part that are extensions of the stem. They're called the internode. Let me show you another example. You see the internode, extensions, the node, the connecting part. So take note. All right. We have the board. The board are more like the newly formed leaves. Okay. So let's move on. Good. The nodes are where branching occur. Why? Internodes are regions where no branching occurred. I've shown you with pictures so that you have a better understanding of it. So the leaves attached to the branches through the nodes. That point of attachment, that point where the leaves connect to the branches, or where the branch connects to the stem, is the node. Whereas the extension where you did not see anything, there is no leaf growing on it, or there is no branch extending from it, is called the internode. So just get it. All right. So what are the functions of a stem? We mentioned provide support. They are the reproductive part. They bear the flower and the fruits. They can carry out vegetative propagation. They carry out photosynthesis. They connect the roots. So we've mentioned all of these things. So if you are confused, just note that the stem supports exchange of materials and allows it to be moved to different parts of the body. It helps in transport of materials, supports gaseous exchange, helps in the transportation of materials, helps in reproduction, and also very useful in photosynthesis. The reason why it is very helpful in photosynthesis is because of the leaves. The leaves. The leaves. Now, types of stem. Types of stem. I will need you to pay close attention. Pay very close attention of what we'll be discussing right now. Types of stem. We have the underground stem. We have the underground stem. Okay. Underground stem. Example, tuber. Of course, when we mention tuber, what comes to your mind? Potato and the rest. We have bulb. When we mention bulb, what comes to your mind? Onion. We have corn. When we mention that, what comes to your mind? Plantain. And then we have the rhizomes. Rhizomes. Okay. Example of rhizomes are ginger, turmeric, and all of that. Okay. Did you follow to this point? We have two types of stem. Underground stem and sub-area stem. That's the ones that do not grow on the ground. Now, under the underground, we have tubers. Tubers. Example of tuber, we have potato. Then we have the bulb. Example of bulb, we have onion. Corn. Example of the corn, we have banana and plantain. Colocasia is, what's it called again? Colocasia is cocoyam. Okay. Then we have the rhizomes, ginger and turmeric. So let's look at sub-areas, the types of stems that don't grow on the ground. We have runners. We have runners. You see them, they creep. They creep. Let me show you an example. of runners. Let me show you an example. Okay, so you see them. They grow through the ground. Just look at this. Let me show you so that you see for yourself. Can you see? Can you see? This is the way they grow. Runner stem, see them. Then something shoots out. It runs through the ground. It runs through the ground. Look at it. It runs through the ground. See an example again. It runs through the ground. These are called runners. These are called runners. That's an example. They are called runners. Awesome. Now we have stolon. Stolon. Then let me show you also an example of stolon. That's why it is an online class. So stolon are more like a runner. It can also be called a runner, but the only difference is that it grows from the lower part of the main axis. Now, see it. See. Can you see? Can you see? This is a strawberry. Can you see? They grow from the lower part, unlike the runners that just extend but grows on the surface of the soil. Stolon grow from the lower part. We have the suckers. Suckers are a typical example is a banana and plantain. Banana trees, the examples of suckers. Let me show you how they look like. Let me show you how they look like. Let me show you. Okay. I wanted to show you an example. Okay. So this image here has all that we are looking for. Okay, so like we were saying, let me show you this, a typical example of what we are talking about. Sub-area, which are known as stems above the ground surface. Stems above the ground surface. We say that the first one is what? The first one are runners, the second one stolon, the third one sucker, and the fourth one offset. So these are just the example of sub-area. Sub-area means they are above the earth, they are above the ground, but still closer to the ground. That's sub-area. They are called sub-area. They are above the ground, but still close to the ground. You see them very still close to the ground, but they are above. That's why they are called sub-area. We have the runners. So looking at this now, you think they are all the same thing, but they are not. They are not. Just minor differences that separates them from each one. So just take note. Under the underground stem, we have the tuber, the bulb, the culm, the rhizomes. Then under the sub-area, they run parallel to the ground. They run parallel to the ground, very close to the ground, right? We have the example, the runners, the stolon, the sucker, and the offset. Now let's look at the area. These are the ones that grow apart above the ground. They grow above the ground. Number one is the thorns. The thorns. Number two, the bulbils. 3, phylloclades. 4, tendrils. 5, cladodes. 6, thalamus. Okay. Now let's look at the internal structure of dicot stems. Internal structure of dicot. We have the epidermis, the outermost layer of the stem, single layered, last chloroplast, multicellular hairs, and protects the plant. Epidermis. Anywhere you hear epi, just know it has to do with external, outermost. Outermost. Epidermis means, dermis means skin. So epidermis is the outermost layer of the stem, the outermost layer of the stem. So being the outermost layer of the stem, obviously the function will be for protection, right? The function will definitely be for protection. Because it is single layered, it lacks chloroplast. So that's not the point of photosynthesis in the plants, okay? We have the cortex. The cortex. The cortex is divided into 3, the hypodermis, the general cortex, and the endodermis. The hypodermis, the general cortex, and the endodermis. Remember, we are already looking at the internal structure of dicot. Dicot. Okay. We have the epidermis, the outermost, single layered, lacks chlorophyll, functions significantly in protection. Now the cortex is divided into 3, the hypodermis, hypodermis located just below the epidermis, right? Also functions for support and contains chloroplast. Good. This multicellular contains chloroplast. The general cortex contains the parenchyma, and it is for food storage. Just note these things. General cortex for food storage. Hypodermis located below the epidermis, and it provides additional support. It contains chloroplast and it is multicellular. Epidermis, the outermost part of the cell, provides support, lacks chloroplast, it is unicellular. Sorry, it is single layered. It is single layered, contains multicellular hairs and stomata. It is single layered, lack chloroplast. Hypodermis, located below the epidermis, provides additional support, multi-layered, and contains chloroplast. Listen, it composed of the parenchyma, all those tissues, the connecting tissues we studied before. The hypodermis contains the parenchyma, the general cortex contains the parenchyma. While the endodermis is the innermost layer of the cortex. We have the vascular bundle. The vascular bundle, that's where the phloem, the xylem, and the cambium are found in the vascular bundles. The xylem, phloem, and cambium. We have the pericycle, situated in between the endodermis and the vascular bundle. The pericycle contains the parenchyma. Please take note. Please take note. Please take note. Please take note. Internal structures of dicot stems. The first is the epidermis, which is the outermost. This epidermis is multicellular and contains stomata. All right. It lacks chloroplast and functions as the main site of support. Okay. It is single layered. Then after that, we have the cortex. It's the second organ. The cortex is divided into three. We have the hypodermis, which is found just below the epidermis. This hypodermis contains what? The parenchyma, and provides additional support to complement the work of the epidermis. Okay, and not only that, it has chloroplast, which is to tell us that photosynthesis can occur at that point. Now, after that, other part of the cortex is the general cortex, which contains the parenchyma, found just below the hypodermis, and the function is for food storage. Then we have the endodermis, that its function is the accumulation of starch. Are you getting it now? Then the third structure of the internal organs of the dicot plant is what we call the vascular bundles, or you can call them the transport tissues. All right. It contains the xylem, the cambium, and the phloem. Okay. Then the fourth one is what we know as the pericycle. The pericycle contains the parenchyma tissue and found just in between the endodermis and the cortex and vascular bundles. Sorry. Then the pith. The pit helps to store food and water. All right. Let's look at the internal structure of monocots. The epidermis, the same. Instead of cortex now, which is present in the dicot, we have the hypodermis. Okay. Then after the hypodermis, we have the ground tissues. Then the vascular bundles and the pit, the lenticels. These are all structures. They are all structures. They are all structures. Structures. Wow. They are all structures. The lenticels function. Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, the Zoom meeting keeps timing me out and logging me back again. I am sorry. Is anyone else experiencing it? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Are you also experiencing it?
Yes.
About that, it keeps timing me out and bringing me in again. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's fine. You can continue.
Okay, so the
I get
lenticels.
it's the network coverage of your area.
I think so. I think so. I think so. So let me just finish these internal structures of plants. So the lenticels are majorly for gaseous exchange between the atmosphere and the internal systems, internal tissues. Then virtually every one of us, we know about the leaf. The leaf. They come in different shapes, in different colors, and they have their functions. Photosynthesis, the primary function. Transpiration, removal of excess water. Reproduction. The leaves functions in reproduction because some flowers grow in the leaves. They function for storage and for respiration. So these are the basics functions of the leaf: photosynthesis, transpiration, storage, respiration, and reproduction. Okay. Now, structure of a leaf. The structures of leaves. Now, the epidermis. We've been talking about measuring epidermis. And I said, anytime you hear the epidermis, just know it's the outermost layer of anything. Anytime you hear about the epidermis of anything, just know it is the outermost layer of anything, all right? So the epidermis of the leaf is the outermost layer of the leaf. Consists of the upper epidermis and the lower epidermis. The upper epidermis is called the adaxial. Wow. This is serious. So we have the adaxia, upper epidermis, abaxia, lower epidermis. We have the mesophyll, the middle layer of the leaf. So let's, in our own ways, try to study. Because I'm trying to see if I can finish up this topic, and if I am to be going with them one after the other. We'll spend hours. We've already spent more than 1 hour already discussing the topics. So the vascular tissues are found in the veins of the leaf, namely the xylem and the phloem. Xylem and the phloem. Anytime you hear about the xylem and phloem, just know that they are transport tissues. Xylem and phloem, they are transport tissues. Okay, they are transport tissues. So the xylem consists of tracheids and vessels. They help in the transport. The phloem transport photosynthetic products from the leaf to other parts of the plant. Good. Parts of a leaf. We have the leaf blade. Let me use Google so that I would understand better. My network is really slow, very slow. Now I don't know why. Can't really say why it is this slow. Wow. It is really very slow. Wow. Okay, so as I was saying, let's pay attention. When we're discussing the stem, we mentioned the nodes and the antinodes. When we're discussing the stem, so this is the node. Structures of the leaf. We have the leaf blade. We have the leaf blade. That's the edge. That's the edge. These internal lines are known as the veins. This place, let me use annotation. These edges are known as the blade. This place is called the tip. The lines you see inside the leaf are called the veins. Then after the veins, there's what we call venules. Let me check another one. Okay. All right. Then there's the midrib. That's the straight line, the line that cuts the leaf into two. And we have the base, the leaf base. So these are the basic structure of the leaf. The leaf blade or lamina, I've shown you. The petiole. The petiole, this is it. More like what connects the leaf to the branch. The petiole connects the leaf to the branch or stem. We have the leaf base, which I've also shown you. Also. Oh, We even have the diagram here. So the middle is called the mid lip. We have the tip. We have the leaf base. The petiole is what connects it to the stem. And then we have the blade. This inner thing are called the veins. Then outside the veins, if you can see clearly, there are other internal extensions that looks like networks of roots. They are called the venules. All right. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but if you can see it, that's fine. All right. So let's move on. Venation. Venation. Venation is simply the arrangement of leaves, the arrangement of veins, in a leaf. That's venation. How veins are arranged in a leaf is what we refer to as the venation. And there are two types of venation. We have the parallel and we have the reticulate. The parallels are arranged, when you talk of parallel, you know how parallel lines are. When we talk of reticulates are like networks, just like we have mentioned. So let me show you. Let me show you. Parallel venation. Let me show you. Okay, let's move on. Leaves are divided into two main categories, the simple leaves and the compound leaves. Okay, so I would suggest that we will read up the remaining ones. Because of this network issue, we would continue the class later on. I've given out this website. Just follow the website and be up to date. Speed up. Your exams are by the corner, so that you'll be able to cover the things that you needed to cover. All right. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Thanks.